Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into another edition of Keytime Sports. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube, Key City Sports on Instagram, and the Key on Millions.co. Here is my profile. Here's my profile so that you will know it's me. Here is my media feed right along with it. Here is my merchandise, so that if you want anything that is associated with Keytime Sports and the Key, you can go on millions.co and buy you a shirt, buy you some hoodies, and we are rolling out new merchandise for the rest of this month and the rest of the year. So now let me get into the topic at hand today. The topic at hand today, I am still doing my series, remaining season outlook for the NBA, and the topic at hand is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, before I get into trade talk situations about James Harden, I would like to talk about their roster. Now, this roster has been in Cleveland, and they have been playing around each other for the last 3 years. They've made it to the playoffs each of the last 3 years. As you can see, when it comes to this roster, you have Jared Allen, Lonzo Ball, he's a new addition. Thomas Bryant, Keon Ellis, Tristan Urena, Darius Garland, Sam Morrell, Emmanuel Miller, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Larry Nance Jr., Craig Porter Jr., Tyrese Porter, Dennis Schroeder, they just picked him up a week ago, Max Strus, Naquan Tomlin, Jalen Tyson, and Dean Wade. The head coach is Kenny Atkinson. So, this team is currently constructed. The Cavaliers are the number 5 team in the East. They are at the number 5 spot right now with 2 wins tonight and later on this week. They could obviously be the second team in the East, along with the New York Knicks and the Boston Celtics. They would be in a tie for second place, a 3-way tie with second place in the East. But before I get into playoff standings and regular season standings, I'm going to talk about the statistics when it comes to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, we all know that the best player on the Cleveland Cavaliers is Donovan Mitchell, right? Donovan Mitchell, 28.8 points per game. Darius Garland, 18 points. Evan Mobley, 17.9. Jared Allen, 14 points. D. Hunter, 14 points. Sam Morrell, 13.6. You have N. Tomlin, 6.6. Dean Wade, 5.8. Thomas Bryant, 5 points. T. Proctor, 4.9. C. Porter Jr., 4.8. Lonzo Ball, 4.6. Larry Nance Jr., 3.4. C. Livingston, 3.0, 3 points. L. Travers, 2.3. And you also have T. Erner, 3 points. Now, we all know that the Cavaliers have been one of those teams for the past 3 years. They've been decent in the regular season, but when it comes to playoffs, it's been exit after exit after exit. Now, we see that you do have a big 3 on this team already, but the Cavaliers, they need another scorer. As you can see, Mitchell, Garland, and Evan Mobley are the top 3 scorers on the Cavaliers, and they've been the top 3 scorers for the past 3 years. Now, I am going to talk about James Harden potentially being in this equation. Is James Harden going to come off the bench if the Cavaliers do end up picking him up, or is James Harden going to be in the starting lineup? Now, if James Harden is in the Cavaliers starting lineup, this is how the starting lineup will sound. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, James Harden, Evan Mobley, and then you will have Jared Allen. So, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, James Harden, and Jared Allen. So, one thing about that is when it comes to the Cavaliers bench production, the Cavaliers bench production has been relatively middle of the pack. Middle of the pack. And also, James Harden, this is his best season as far as scoring wise, scoring output and average. 25.4 points per game he's averaging since 2019-2020 season. So it's been a minute since we can say that James Harden has averaged 25 points in a season. It's been a minute. And we all know that the last time that he averaged this many points, we also know that he was in the MVP discussion. Now, primarily right now, he's not in the MVP discussion, but he could be a six man. I could see on this roster with the Cavaliers, he could be a six man. No matter what, he can. Now, as far as once we get to those trade talks, here is what some sources say. This is according to ESPN. Clippers, Harden exploring trade. Cavaliers are very interested. Now, this is according to Ramona Shelburne. The LA Clippers and guard James Harden are working through whether the sides can find a deal by Thursday's NBA trade deadline, sources told ESPN Ramona Shelburne last night. The Cavaliers are one of the teams expressing serious interest in James Harden, sources told Sharania. Harden, 36, has veto power over any trade because he's technically under contract for only this season. The second year of the 2-year, $81.5 million deal he agreed to this past offseason is a player option, which isn't fully guaranteed. Harden sought out Sunday's win in Phoenix and Monday's home loss to the Philadelphia 76ers for personal reasons, according to the team. Clippers coach Tyronn Lue said before Monday's game that Harden was at his home in Phoenix. Possibly he's got a home in Phoenix. Cleveland is showing interest. Possibly, and I do mean possibly, the Phoenix Suns are showing interest, but that is, I heard that through the grapevine, that there's an outside chance that Phoenix may also throw interest at James Harden. But all in all, right now it is 9:08, Tuesday, February 3rd, 9:08 Eastern Standard Time. As of right now, we are not hearing anything as far as no interest coming out of Phoenix. After the game, a 128-113 loss, Lue said he couldn't comment on trade discussions, but added that Harden means a lot to the franchise. When asked if he hoped Harden would be with the Clippers past the trade deadline, Lue said, "We wouldn't want to have James Harden." Excuse me, let me clarify what Tyronn Lue just said last night. Who wouldn't want to have James Harden? And ladies and gentlemen, Tyronn Lue, he's right. Who wouldn't want to have James Harden? You have a legitimate scorer that is averaging 25.4 points per game this season for the first time in about 6 years. He's one of the greatest scorers in NBA history. But there is one hiccup when it comes to James Harden, America. One hiccup that we always talk about when it comes to the playoffs. In the playoffs, he crumbles like a cookie. He doesn't come up when he needs to. When pressure-packed moments come, he's nowhere to be found. He is missing in action. He was missing in action with the Thunder. He was missing in action with the Rockets on multiple occasions with the Rockets. He was missing in action when he was with the Philadelphia 76ers. He was missing in action most of the time when he was with Brooklyn. He was missing in action all his previous stops in the NBA. Now, with the Clippers, he was missing in action last season with the Clippers in that game 6 and 7 versus the Denver Nuggets. The Clippers needed him, and he was nowhere to be found. So, that is the only hiccup that hurts James Harden's resume right now, America. It does. It does. And also, Tyronn Lue goes on to say, well, as far as this, Harden has helped lead the Clippers back into contention for a play-in spot after a dismal 6-21 start. Harden recently told ESPN that he felt blessed to be playing in his hometown of Los Angeles and was confident the Clippers could come all the way back from their poor start to the season. The Clippers are fifth. Clippers are Harden's fifth team after stints in Oklahoma City, Houston, Brooklyn, and Philadelphia. LA acquired Harden from the 76ers in 2023 to pair with superstars Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. George left for Philadelphia as a free agent in the summer of 2024 and was recently suspended for a violation of the NBA's drug policy. Harden recently passed Shaquille O'Neal for 9th all-time on the NBA scoring list. So now, potential trade deadline. Let's see. Best case scenario, pros and cons for Harden being in Cleveland. Now, we all know that Harden, he's not going to have a problem being able to adapt to the offensive system that head coach Kenny Atkinson has installed. It's basically the same offensive system that he has played with over the years. With Mike D'Antoni, with Scott Brooks, with Steve Nash, we already know that, with Steve Nash, he wasn't really playing as much in Brooklyn with the Nets, but when he did play with the Nets, he was very efficient. His time in Philadelphia, I believe that is a stain on his career because he had points with Philadelphia where he could have took over those playoff series, but didn't. Then you go to last year. His first time with not the Cavaliers, but the Clippers. Playoff scenarios against the Denver Nuggets, where the Clippers, they needed somebody to come up in Game 6 and in Game 7. James Harden didn't do anything in Game 6, and he didn't do anything in Game 7. So, for the Cavaliers, we see them as a team that can possibly, and I do mean possibly, make it to the NBA Finals. They are third on the list right now as I am looking at my odds market prediction board for the NBA Finals. The Cleveland Cavaliers are third are the third best. They have the third best odds to win the NBA Finals, outside of Oklahoma City and possibly the New York Knicks. Well, excuse me, New York Knicks are second according to Las Vegas odds Superbook. So we already know that's already clarification right there. But if the Cavaliers, if this trade does fall through, and the Cavaliers do need James Harden to come up in those big moments later on in the season and in those playoff games where you need him to average 20 to 25 points per game. It comes down to a game 6, an elimination game, and you need James Harden to step up. Do we believe that James Harden is going to step up? Because he has had it 7 times in his career where he's played in elimination games. America, he is 0-7 in elimination games. 0-7. We can go all the way back to 2012 he was playing for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Game 5 versus the Miami Heat. He did not play well. He had a bad shooting night in that series in game 5. Then we get to 2014. Now 2014, he had a bad shooting night against the Spurs. This was when he was with the Houston Rockets, 2014. Then Houston Rockets, 2015. You get all the way to the Western Conference Finals. And then in games 4, 5, and 6, when he played with the Rockets, James Harden failed to produce. He had 12, 14, and 16 versus the Warriors. That was in 2015, and they lost to the eventual Golden State Warriors when they became NBA champions then. We can go to 2016. 2016, same exact scenario. You have a series lead, an elimination game. You're down in this series. I believe it was 3-2 or 3-1, and James Harden does not come up with what you need a star player to come up with. 2018, the same exact thing against the Warriors again. This was when the Warriors had Kevin Durant. You had the Warriors dead in the water at bay. And then all of a sudden, in a series clinching game, again in that game 6 in 2018, where the Rockets, they could have won that series. And that's the game where Houston Rockets as a team, they missed 25 consecutive three-point attempts, and they kept on shooting them. And we are looking at James Harden in that scenario, and we are looking at, okay, you are the best player on the team. How are you going to stop this shooting drought? And he was not able to stop the shooting drought. Then we fast forward to 2020. We all know that James Harden wanted out of Houston. He got his wish. He got out of Houston, went to the Brooklyn Nets. He was not able to stay 100% with the Brooklyn Nets. Then he goes to the Philadelphia 76ers. Do you all see a pattern where in games where he needs to come up big, he crumbles like a cookie and he does not deliver when you need him to deliver? So, if I'm the Cleveland Cavaliers and I'm trying to pursue James Harden to come to Cleveland, what I am going to do is I'm just going to give him a role that he can fit in any role, but give him a role and a time frame where he can play in games, whether it is 15 to 20 minutes, where he can play in those games, because you are really going to need him in the playoffs. That's all that James Harden's resume boils down to now. We know that you've gotten the MVPs. You've gotten 3 MVPs. Between 2012 and 2018, it was him and somebody else always competing for the MVP of the NBA. Now you're at that point in your career where you want an NBA championship, and ladies and gentlemen, this may be the last chance that James Harden gets a chance to get back to the NBA Finals. I believe that is exactly what this all boils down to. Now, as far as playoff scenarios, if the playoffs were to start today, the Cleveland Cavaliers would be playing the Toronto Raptors. Now, I did a segment on the Toronto Raptors last week. If you didn't see it, you can go to YouTube, you can go to Instagram, and you can go to TikTok, and you can see what I said throughout the Toronto Raptors segment. But as far as the Cleveland Cavaliers, when we get to contract situations, Donovan Mitchell, he has 2 more years. He has 3 more years left on his contract. Darius Garland has 3 more years left on his contract. Jared Allen has 3 more years left on his contract. So you got all of these players between now and the 2029 season. But for the last 3 seasons, you've made progress now. Last season, the Cavaliers, they took a step back. Nobody thought that the Cavaliers would lose to the Indiana Pacers. Now, the Indiana Pacers are pretty much dead in the water. They are at the bottom of the barrel, as you can see on this projections list. And as far as record-wise, they're 13-37, worst team in the East. They're not making it to the playoffs. But one thing about the Cavaliers is, can you make it past the second round? That's the question. That's the number one question. And also, where does James Harden fit in the lineup with the Cleveland Cavaliers? That is assuming that the Cavaliers get James Harden in a trade in the next 24 to 36 hours. Because the NBA trade deadline ends at 4 p.m. on Thursday afternoon, February 5th. February 5th, America. So, we got 2 questions for the Cavaliers. Can they make it past the second round? Because you've made it, you beat, I'm going to say this, a couple years ago, you beat the Orlando Magic in the first round. You get to the second round, you lose to the Boston Celtics, which was the eventual champion. Then the year before last, you lose in the first round. Then last year, you get past the first round, you lose in the second round to the Indiana Pacers. So it's just been playoff exit after playoff exit after playoff exit. It's the 4th year. 4th year with this same bunch. And what do I always say, America? The first year of a new team and a new coaching staff, you're going to have growing pains. Second year, improvement. Third year, like I said, last year, the Cavaliers became a playoff contender. 4th year, we are in the 4th year of Donovan Mitchell and this team. So, you should be making pathways, if not getting to the NBA Finals, at least getting into the conference finals. And then, you know how I always say, by that 5th or 6th year, you should be a championship contender, if not winning the championship before then. So, I believe for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland Cavaliers, they are outside of the New York Knicks and Boston Celtics, are the most experienced team going into this playoffs. Because Boston, we all know that Boston won the championship a couple years ago. They have the same bunch. They have questions. They don't know if Jason Tatum is going to come back, whether he's going to come back before the playoffs or if he is going to wait until after the season to start his rehab and start coming back for the new season that is going to happen in October. But the Cavaliers championship window with this bunch may be closing after this season. Now, nobody, and I do mean nobody, is going to run away with the Eastern Conference. Because as you can see right here, Detroit, 36 wins. New York currently right now, they have 31. Boston has 31. You have Toronto with 30. Cleveland with 30. The Philadelphia 76ers with 28. And then you have a nip and tuck. 4 teams that are just nip and tuck at each other when it comes to the playoffs, when it comes to the play-in tournament scenario in the Eastern Conference. So, Cleveland Cavaliers, here's my final take when it comes to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I believe that the Cleveland Cavaliers, they do need another scorer, and more than likely, that could be James Harden. I just hope that situations in the playoffs don't get dire for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Because if you have to depend on James Harden to get you from one series to the next, and you expect for him to have a 30-point, well, I'm just going to say this, a 30-point double-double. You're not going to get that in a elimination game, because throughout his career in elimination games, James Harden has only averaged 15 points a game, America, in those elimination games. But hey, all things are good, are for the greater good. But one thing, hey, I would like to see James Harden get a championship before he retires. So that's why I'm putting all my chips on the table for James Harden, and hopefully this trade will fall through, and hopefully the Cavaliers can get to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2016. Now, for the finality of the Cleveland Cavaliers, let's get to their remaining schedule. I didn't even talk about their schedule earlier on in this segment, but I'm going to get into their schedule right now. So, start of the season, you lose to the New York Knicks. Okay, opening night, everybody is rusty, so I'm not going to take too much away from that. But then we get to the past 3 weeks. So ever since the second week of January, let's see where they have been at. So since the second week of January, the Cavaliers have pretty much only lost 5 games. A total of 5 games in their last 20. So that is good, because you played against Denver on January 2nd. You won. Detroit, you lost. Indiana, you won, but hey, I'm not gonna mark that up, because we all know that Indiana is terrible this season. And you lost versus Minnesota, and you won versus Minnesota you played them twice in 3 days. Utah, you lost versus Utah, pretty much a bad loss. Philadelphia, you beat them both times in Philadelphia, 2 times in 3 nights. You lose versus Oklahoma City on January 19th. Then you beat Charlotte, Sacramento, you beat Orlando twice in 3 nights. You won versus Los Angeles last week. And you won versus the Portland Trail Blazers. And that was on February 1st. So now we get to their remaining schedule. So the Cavaliers, here's their remaining schedule. So tomorrow night you have the Clippers. That game could go either way. Saturday you have Sacramento. Then you have Denver, Washington, Brooklyn, Charlotte. All 3 of those games are very winnable. Then you have Oklahoma City on February 22nd. Then you have the New York Knicks on February 24th. Then we start getting to the point of the season where we're getting down to the nitty-gritty time. Late February, early March. That's when a lot of the playoff scenarios start to go into effect. Then on February 27th, you have Detroit. Then you have Detroit again a week later on March 3rd. You have Boston, Philadelphia. You have Orlando. Then you have Dallas twice in 3 nights. You have Milwaukee on the 17th. You have the Chicago Bulls on the 19th. You have a layup with the New Orleans Pelicans. You have Orlando, which is going to be tough no matter what. You have Miami twice in 3 nights. That's going to be tough. You have Utah on the 30th of March. March 31st, you have the Los Angeles Lakers. April 2nd, you have Golden State. Who knows where Golden State could be? I'm going to do a segment on Golden State sometime this month. But Golden State could obviously be out of it before April gets here. Before the end of this month, they could be out of it. Then we get to the final 5 games of the season for the Cleveland Cavaliers. You have Indiana, Memphis, Atlanta, twice in 3 nights. Then you have Washington, where I see the Cleveland Cavaliers as far as their record at the end of the season. Right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers are 30-21. I could see the Cleveland Cavaliers winning 53 to about, I would say, 57 games, getting the fourth spot in the Eastern Conference. I don't see them going much further because the Knicks are going to be there at 2, and the Boston Celtics are going to be there at 3. So it's not going to be too much movement in the Eastern Conference over these next 5 or 6 weeks, America. I don't see it. I just don't. The Toronto Raptors, worst case scenario, the Toronto Raptors are 5. Best case scenario for the Cavaliers, 4. And the Pistons, one thing about the Pistons is, the question is, with the Pistons, do they have enough playoff experience so they can make a NBA Finals run? That's the only question that I have for the Detroit Pistons. And later on this month, I will be doing a segment about the Detroit Pistons. But all in all, that is my season remaining outlook for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube. Key City Sports on Instagram, and the Key on Millions.co. Here is my merchandise, as you can see right here. Here is my profile so that you will know it's me, so that you know that you are looking at the right commentator when it comes to sports topics and clips. And here is my media feed for segments. I've already did segments on the Toronto Raptors, the Orlando Magic, and I just completed the Cleveland Cavaliers right now to this point. And people, you will be able to see this in another hour, because this is the finalization of my Cavaliers segment. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to the platforms that I just showed you. And remember, everybody, one last thing: the key is always on time.